Studios presents Common Censored. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Common Censored. I'm your host, Lord Sterling, and we are the Censored Commoners working together to spread information like wildfire, sparking brush fires in the minds of patriots all across the country to help rise up and stop the commie overthrow from happening in full. Thanks for being here again today, guys. Make sure to join us Monday through Friday as we break down all the crazy clown world chaos. What's up, Ed? Good to see you, man. Tim Finman, Mama Mac, Alicia Savage. Thanks for joining us, guys. Breaking down all the crazy clown world clusterfuck chaos. This is episode 180. Trump's SCOTUS has fucked us in the ass. Okaying red flag laws in all 50 states, it seems. Biden regime documents have come out that label MAGA as a domestic terror threat as they prepare to basically put us all in gulags that they're building all over the country. So arm up, be prepared for that. Do not comply. Don't let them put you on the trains and bring you to the camps. Have food so you don't need to go to the super centers in stadiums or wherever they're telling people to go to get free food. If the system falls apart, be prepared. Don't follow the crowd. Whatever the crowd's doing, do the opposite. They say duck, you jump, etc. This is crazy, man. Make sure to use hashtag #CommonCensored when you share the broadcast on X, where you can find us at _CommonCensored. Thanks to all of our new followers over on Rumble. Mere seconds ago, Adelphi followed us on Rumble. Thank you, Adelphi. We also have Gerald Sr., Harlow Cuddly Kitty 414. Actually, I think that's a spammer. Airco Brahmin. And others. Thank you guys for following the show. Appreciate you. We also have the Gateway Pundit under fire, under lawsuits from all different directions. Ruby and Shay Freeman, those bitches that seemingly brought out votes from under the tables in Georgia in 2020 and started running them through the ballot machines over and over again, just like they sued Giuliani. They're suing Gateway Pundit. Giuliani was not allowed to defend himself, Alex Jones style, and charged hundreds of millions of dollars, I believe, as a result of that. So Gateway Pundit is under fire as well. They are coming after all of the big tip of the spear, pro-MAGA, anti-establishment news sources. InfoWars, Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro, Gateway Pundit, Epic Times. It's like clockwork. They're coming for all the big ones. So this is crazy type stuff that we're dealing with. Links to all of the articles, content, video that we'll discuss today will be down in the description after the broadcast. So if you're strapped for time and you want to boom, 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 hop to the things that interest you, Mama Mac will be adding timestamps down there as well. So you can jump right to the stories that interest you if you're watching this later on and not live during the broadcast. Thanks again to Mama Mac for all your help, and support Mama Mac and fam by going over to alplama.com, your new herbal health guru with natural tinctures to remedy all your potential ailments, and details of what each of the tinctures help with over on the website. Thanks again to Alp Llama and Mama Mac. Alp Llama, yuck, tastes bad but does good. And if you want to support the show directly, hop on over to our link tree, where you can find links to our merch, our books, all kinds of fun stuff over there. As we discuss regularly, we have the Think for Yourself Question Authority line of products, which are my favorite. All kinds of fun stuff. And anybody who decides to support the broadcast by subscribing monthly on Subscribestar or Locals, or donating via Cash App, Venmo, Google Pay, Rumble Rants, which we will read on air, you'll be automatically entered into our contest. Got names in a hat. Make sure yours is in there with it. To win copies of our books, Common Sense, Thomas Paine's magnum opus, first edition revived, made from HD pictures of an original January 1776 first edition copy, and we also have the redacted version, the ultimate free speech coffee table gag book, Common Censored, our eponymous title. So thanks again for supporting the show. If you want your comments to be read on air, make sure to shoot us a rumble rant throughout the show, and we will read it on air, as long as it's not like some crazy crazy racist stuff or something like that. Oh man. All right. Disclaimer. Views expressed on Common Censored are only opinions. Assume everything we say is false and research for yourself. We're not giving medical, legal, or financial advice. The only advice we are giving is think for yourself. Question authority. Think for yourself. Question authority. All right, let's jump into the news. Let's see, what do we have first? We got some Idaho water curtailment order stuff to look at right off the bat. Mama Mac sent this to me from Wall Street Apes, at Wall Street Apes. And if we suddenly disappear, it's from, we have a thunderstorm going on right now, and power could go out at any moment, theoretically. So if we're all of a sudden gone, have a great weekend, guys. Wall Street Ape says, I hope this makes the Idaho water shutoff to farmers real for people. Idaho is fining farms $300 per acre for using water. Farmers are already declaring bankruptcy. Here are two farmers from eastern Idaho who have just received their water shutoff orders. This is it, guys. It's time to make a stand. Where Doc Pete Chambers, Army Ranger Commander? It's time to get people to Idaho and stop this type of shit from happening. We gotta stand up for the farmers. The way that the truckers all drove to the cities in Quebec and DC, or wherever Ottawa, whatever it was, in Canada and DC. We need people to go to Idaho to help this out. And stop this from happening. We need to guard the water valves and prevent water from being shut off. This is the last straw. We can't allow this. They're going to artificially induce a famine in the U.S. to kill us. So if we don't take a stand for Idaho and the farmers, we might as well just lay down right now and bare our necks to the establishment. This is bullshit. I'm not calling for anything violent, but I am calling for people to go protect the water in Idaho. We need to make a stand here. Otherwise, there's no point at all. So Doc Pete Chambers, people out there who are, ex-SEALs or whatever, we need you. We need you. Idaho needs you. We all, as a result, through the ripple effect, need you, because if they shut down the water in Idaho, we're all going to suffer from it. Let's watch some of this video here.
Hey, Christopher, do you see this?
See what?
Well, we just got our curtailment letter from the Idaho Department of Water Resources, and they're telling us we have to shut our 8 wells off.
Shut our water off? What for?
Oh, just a bunch of ridiculous stuff. Let's talk about it.
Okay.
So this is a letter that we just got. We didn't think we were going to be affected by this curtailment, because most of our farm ground, all these sprinklers going back over here, most of our farm ground is surface water through canals. We do have 8 wells, but 2 of them are emergency wells, and I think we've converted, 3.
They're their own wells. They're telling people to shut off their own wells. Do not comply. Fuck the feds. Fuck the people trying to do this. Take a stand. This is where we have to make a stand. We have to. There's no choice. We can't allow the crops to not be grown this year. We can't allow it. We're otherwise we're fucked. So we have to make a stand. People need to go to Idaho and intervene.
2 or 3 more over to surface water, but we do use 3 wells. We use 3 wells to water our crops. So they want us to shut our water off. This is from the Idaho Department of Water Resources, and they want us to turn our wells off.
I saw that Jack Carr, the author of the James Reese novel series that's being turned into an Amazon Prime series, Terminal List, season 1 already out. They're shooting season 2, I think, right now. He went live earlier and was talking about all these updates on shooting and his book sales and everything like that. He was a 20-year SEAL sniper. People like that need to get their heads out of their asses. Who fucking cares about the entertainment industry right now? You need to be gathering people like you to stop this bullshit that's going on in Idaho. We can't allow this to happen. Who cares about TV? I mean, this is real life happening. We need people that have capabilities intervening right now. We can't allow this to happen. Wake up, Jack Carr. Wake up, everybody. Get involved.
And it's not just us. So the Idaho water curtailment is affecting about 500,000 acres of farmland here in Idaho.
So the problem is, and why this curtailment is happening, is because down in Twin Falls, there's the Twin Falls Canal Company.
Oh, but who cares about any of this? Because Jack Carr's using a cool 80s retro theme to market his book. Who gives a fuck about that, Jack Carr? Wake up! Gather your teams, man. It's time.
And they were getting a little short of water, so in 2015,
defensive
they
action
came up with an agreement of how much water the well users, the groundwater users, could use.
Jack Carr, do you think James Reese, your character, your protagonist in your book, would sit around and do nothing and promote entertainment industry while they're stealing our farmers' water in this country? I don't think so. Be the hero you write about, man, and get involved with this.
So they were short 74,000 acre feet of water, and they were short that in 2021. So from 2015 clear up to 2021, we were putting way more. It was more than double the amount of water we were using. We were putting back in the aquifer. Well, 2021 came along and there was a drought. And that drought caused us to use more than we used the same amount, but because there was less water that year, it was a hot, dry year, we weren't able to put as much back into the aquifer, and that's when they were short. So 74,000 acre feet is essentially 12 and a half days of water in their canal. So this canal that's down there, it waters 200,000-ish acres, and I think there's about 5,000 customers. Well, because they were short 12 and a half days of water, they want to shut off 500,000 acres of water and 6,400 customers' wells. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah. That's in the eastern Snake.
It's called a communist takeover, guys. Do not comply. Take a stand. Cement your valves open. Do something. Do something. We can't allow this to happen.
Aquifer. So that's wells that come in the aquifer, potentially drying up extensive farmland across several counties.
Yeah, I think there's actually about 18 counties that have a little bit, but our county, Bingham County, has like almost 150,000 acres that are being curtailed, that they want to shut off just in Bingham County. So Bingham County grows more potatoes than any other county in the state.
That means you will starve. You and all the other states will starve as a result of this. No potatoes? That's like half the shit people eat gone.
And just in Bingham County, there's $1.3-ish billion spent in the county. And
exactly,
if that water
Mom
was
Mac.
curtailed,
you've done this before.
It would reduce the amount of money spent in the county by $300 to $400 million. So you wouldn't just be putting farmers out of business. You'd be putting people who deliver gas out of business, people who sell groceries. You'd be putting all the equipment people out of business, the repairmen, the servicemen. We just had people coming out working on our pivots and stuff. You'd be putting all those guys out of business, which would hurt everyone.
People like Michael Yon, these special forces guys, Doc Pete Chambers, they're doing all these operations at the border, the Darien Gap. That's important. We need to stop that from, illegal immigrants from coming over the border. But you got to know when you need a strategic retreat. We need to retreat and occupy Idaho to prevent this from happening. Non-violently, defensively, protect the valves, protect the wells. Otherwise, we're fucked, guys.
Trucking companies would go out of business.
Yep. You have a lot of guys who have storages for potatoes. All those guys, they would no longer be getting rent for their potatoes. It would just devastate the entire Idaho economy if this happened. It's not just localized. And actually, it would pretty well be felt nationwide.
Nationwide, we need to protect Idaho. Everybody depends on it. Make sure to watch the rest of this video, but you get the gist. Well, let's jump to our next topic. Hop backwards through time. Everything that this says for the past 50 years has been a lie. Jones posts, giving a boost to Dr. Mary at Dr. ARCEDRARCE on X. Remember when Fauci told us about HIV and how it could jump to you if you were just too close? This guy's advice was bullshit then, and you should have smelled the bullshit in 2020. Let's listen to what this fucking rodent person was saying back in the 80s here about HIV. Oh, but you need a 6 feet distance for COVID too. Same bullshit.
Starting to see, as we're seeing virtually as the months go by, other groups that can be involved, and seeing it in children is really quite disturbing.
When you say other close contact, give me some examples.
Well, for example, if the close contact of a child is a household contact, perhaps there will be a certain number of cases of individual who are just living with and in close contact with someone with AIDS or at risk of AIDS, who does not necessarily have to have intimate sexual contact or share a needle, but just the ordinary close contact that one sees in start.
I want this fucking weasel human hybrid arrested right now. We need Nuremberg 2.0. I'm mad as fuck today. I'm so mad today. This is bullshit. This is bullshit. It's bullshit. We gotta do something. Oh my God, dude. These people are pure, unadulterated, 100%.
It's pure evil!
It's fucking crazy. Let's continue and jump into our next topic with the Biden regime declaring MAGA supporters domestic terror threats in newly released internal documents. And they sought to set up a DHS, a Homeland Security Intelligence Unit, to target us. Yay. Cullen Linebarger wrote this article at Gateway Pundit, who's under fire right now from all angles. We'll get into that shortly as well. Jim Hoff reported yesterday that America First legal Stephen Miller released documents demonstrating how the Department of Homeland Security put together a since disbanded DHS intel group, or maybe they just went undercover, deep cover, that included deep state goons John Brennan and James Clapper, Russia, laptop, cunts, to reclassify political dissent under the guise of, quote, public health, so that ordinary Americans felt empowered to rat on their neighbors. You see something, say something. Now, AFL has released an even more infuriating batch of documents that should send chills straight up your spine, because Trump supporters are on the menu. That's right, democracy, 2 wolves and a sheep, voting on what to eat for dinner. MAGA is on the plate. These newly released internal files by America First Legal show the Biden regime classifies someone as a person likely to commit, quote, domestic violence extremist attacks. But instead of focusing on actual threats like Antifa, pro-Hamas supporters, or BLM, they have declared Trump supporters as enemies of the state instead. No, pay no attention to the throngs, the unwashed hordes of BLM and Antifa lunatics going around smashing windows, burning buildings to the ground all over the country, murdering people, literally. But it's the MAGA people who ideologically understand that you fuckers are taking over the country, that we're the domestic threats. No, you are the domestic threat. You're projecting your own threat of taking over the country onto us, who are trying to defend the country. It's pure fucking evil, psychological projection, pure communism. This is messed up. Let's hop over to the America First legal thread on X. Exclusive internal docs from Biden's DHS shows their plans to target Trump supporters as domestic extremists. The Brennan Clapper Intel Group discussed how, quote, most of the domestic terrorism threat now comes from supporters of the former president. Yeah, we'll see about that. Summer of Rage inbound. We're going to see BLM Antifa losers going crazy like we did in 2020, probably on an even crazier scale this year. But they're going to say, oh, no, MAGA's the threat. Then if we even have an election and Trump wins, they'll go even crazier. But no, it'll still be MAGA that's the threat. It'll be our fault, that they go off and start burning cities down all across the country. They'll blame it on us, even though they are the domestic terrorists and the ones that are actually going into the streets and doing crazy shit. Like at the inauguration in 2016 when Trump won. And Antifa swarmed D.C., smashing windows of storefronts, flipping over limos, setting them on fire, like all kinds of crazy shit, blocking MAGA people from even getting into the venue, the general area outside of the inaugural stage on the west side of the Capitol building. They're gonna do the same thing on steroids and say, oh, like a domestic abuser beating his wife. Look what you made me do. Look, MAGA, look what you made us do. They're going to blame us for it while they come after us. Well, we're doing nothing. This is insane. Deep State Diaries, Part 2 from America First Legal. There's a political backdrop to all of this. It seems that most of the domestic terrorism threat now comes from supporters of the former president. It's not like you want a political advantage, but people have attacked the government and its institutions for the last 6 years. What are you talking about? You mean J6, where you had FBI launching explosives into the crowd, allegedly, and instigating the quote-unquote attack, where you opened the doors and let people come into the buildings and had Antifa dressed as MAGA smashing windows? It's all bullshit. It's all fake. But it is, we really do need to start organizing militias and training for defensive, operations because they're coming after us. They're going to claim we're the threat. No, we're not. We're not the threat. We need to defend ourselves, though. People need to start organizing and training for this insanity that's coming our way. I know that there's a lot of groups already out there doing it. So just accelerate and prepare for defensive operations, because this is going to go full on Soviet Russia style and they're going to crack down on all of us. This is absolute madness. Let's continue. 2. Today we're releasing the second tranche of internal files from the Homeland Intelligence Experts Group obtained exclusively through our litigation with @Richard Grinnell against the Biden DHS. Biden admin will dissolve and disband unlawful DHS. This is from last month, it looks like. The experts group shall be wound down within 30 days. I don't believe that they wound this down at all. Today's installment exposes how the Biden administration classifies someone as a person likely to commit, quote, domestic violent extremist attacks, particularly those who support President Trump, are, quote, in the military or are religious. We need people protecting critical infrastructure, because they're gonna set this country ablaze if they can and blame it on us. We need to be the ones preventing it from happening. 4, under the Brennan Clapper Committee's approach to national security, when all else fails, DHS should use being, quote, in the military or religious to profile people and tag them as having, quote, indicators of extremists and terrorism as a pretext to allow DHS to spy on them. If you ask researchers to dive into the indicators of extremists and terrorism, they might indicate being in the military or religious. Those are just two completely innocuous things. This being identified as an indicator suggests we should be more worried about these. We need the space to talk about it honestly, like the 2009 Missouri Information Analysis Center, the FEMA Fusion Center report classifying Ron Paul supporters and people with Constitution bumper stickers as domestic terrorists. They're taking innocuous things that represent the good parts of our country, individualism, our Constitution, and claiming that believing in those things makes us domestic terrorists, makes us threats. These people are pure evil. Be ready, guys. That's right, Ed. Ammo. This shit is insane. Yeah, Ed. Tim says nothing's going to change even if Trump is elected. If we even get an election, it's quite possibly true because Trump picked these fuckwits that just legalized red flag laws all over this country. Great job, Trump, you fucking moron. You know, he's great. Sometimes he's a total fucking idiot at other times. So we're suffering the fallout of his dumbass fucking decisions now with the morons that he put on the Supreme Court. Fucking hell, man. So now they can just take guns away from anybody for 2 years for bullshit allegations when no crime has been committed. We'll get into that a little bit later. Salty Cracker started streaming early again today. Just now. Shout out to Salty. God damn, this is so fucking frustrating. The group went on to discuss how most of the domestic terrorist threat now comes from supporters of the former president, i.e. Trump supporters. There's a political backdrop to this. We already showed that one. Read the first installment of Deep State Diaries here. This is nuts. This is nuts. They're claiming we're the threat when they're threatening us and we're just defending ourselves. It's a complete inversion of reality. Let's hop into the SCOTUS ruling story. Thanks, Mama Mac, for sharing this with me. Mama Mac @_MamaMac_.com says, this sounds like vague enough wording that a fascist government can use it to disarm anyone. And let's not lie to ourselves. We're currently living in a fascist country. That's right, for the past, 80 years. Be prepared, folks. @_Common Censored. Give it a boost to @MJTruthUltra, who is posting about this SCOTUS ruling. Not too happy about this one, as it sounds like they've just legalized red flag laws in all 50 states, right? When an individual has been found by a court to pose a credible threat. That's right, pre-crime, like Minority Report, which is a dystopian novel, to the physical safety of another, that individual may be temporarily disarmed consistent with the Second Amendment. Well, guess what? It's not consistent with the Second Amendment. Roberts, scumbag, delivered the opinion. Everybody on this fucking court joined him. All three of Trump's shit fucking picks. And Thomas was the only one that dissented. Only Justice Thomas seems to understand the Constitution. Our based Chad on the Supreme Court over there. Let's read some of this. Respondent Zaki Rahimi was indicted under 18 U.S. Code Section 922, subsection G, subsection 8, a federal statute that prohibits individuals subject to a domestic violence restraining order from possessing a firearm. Prosecution under Section 922 G8 may proceed only if the restraining order meets certain statutory criteria. In particular, the order must either contain a finding that the defendant, quote, represents a credible threat to the physical safety, unquote, of his intimate partner or his partner's child, or, quote, by its terms explicitly prohibit the use, unquote, attempted use or threatened use of, quote, physical force, unquote, against those individuals. Rahimi concedes here that the restraining order against him satisfies the statutory criteria, but argues that on its face, Section 922 G8 violates the Second Amendment. It does! The district court denied Rahimi's motion to dismiss the indictment on Second Amendment grounds. While Rahimi's case was on appeal, the Supreme Court decided New York State Rifle and Pistol Association, Inc. versus Bruin. In light of Bruin, the Fifth Circuit reversed, concluding the government had not shown that Section 922 G8, quote, fits within our nation's historical tradition of firearm regulation. Held, when an individual has been found by a court to pose a credible threat to the physical safety of another, that individual may be temporarily disarmed consistent with the Second Amendment. A, since the founding, the nation's firearm laws have included regulations to stop individuals who threaten physical harm to others from misusing firearms. As applied to the facts here, Section 922 fits within this tradition. The right to keep and bear arms is among the, quote, fundamental rights necessary to our system of ordered liberty. McDonald v. Chicago, 561. Let's hop into more coverage from the Gateway Pundit talking about this. Supreme Court 8-1. Citizens lose all gun rights for 2 years when accused of domestic violence. Benjamin Whitmore wrote this article. Let me make sure that everything's on screen here. Okay, good. On Friday, the Supreme Court rejected the constitutional challenge to a federal law banning gun possession by a citizen who has a domestic violence restraining order. The vote on case U.S. versus Rahimi was 8-1. Only Clarence Thomas dissented. The decision was written by Chief Justice John Roberts. Problem with this case and the decision, and there's a link to read the full decision, says firearms civil rights activists, is that these restraining orders are subject to abuse and a major prejudice by judges who issue them with very low evidentiary standards. The mainstream media and the gun-grabbing groups were busy celebrating another court decision in favor of restricting gun laws. You think this is why they put up the fences around the Supreme Court recently? As CNN reported, Joe Biden celebrated the anti-gun decision, saying through a prepared statement, quote, "As a result of today's ruling, survivors of domestic violence and their families will be able to count on critical protections, just as they have for the past 3 decades. Thank you, Joe Biden. Far left gun-grabbing groups referred to it as an, quote, important victory for gun violence and domestic violence prevention, as stated by Douglas Letter, who is the chief legal officer of the gun-grabbing group, the Brady Center to End Gun Violence. You're never going to end gun violence. The only way to prevent gun violence is for more people to have guns. So lunatics with guns know they'll get fucking lit up if they do anything stupid. The pro-gun National Association for Gun Rights had this to say about the decision. Let's zoom and enhance this post. National Association for Gun Rights. Today, the Supreme Court issued its ruling in U.S. v. Rahimi, holding that the federal law allowing individuals subject to certain restraining orders may be disarmed for the duration of the restraining order. The ruling was 8-1, authored by the Majority Chief Justice and cunt John Roberts, with Justice Clarence Thomas dissenting. Quote, in our amicus brief, we asked the Supreme Court to smack down the misuse of Bruin that we've seen in our gun ban challenges. The Supreme Court chose not to in this particular ruling, but they have an even better opportunity to do just that in our petition for cert over the Illinois gun ban. It's our hope and prayer that they will take our case and address the egregious Seventh Circuit ruling that trampled both the Second Amendment and Bruin, said Dudley Brown, president of the National Association for Gun Rights. The ruling is a narrow holding upholding the federal law in question, but it breaks no new Second Amendment ground, and it establishes no explicit new loopholes for anti-gun lawyers or judges to use, at least not without misapplying the ruling's intent. The National Association for Gun Rights filed an amicus brief asking the court to use this opportunity to clarify elements of the Bruin precedent that have been consistently misapplied by the lower courts, specifically the, quote, plain text, unquote, step that the Seventh Circuit twisted to say that AR-15s are not, quote, arms under the Second Amendment. Wow. Oh, man. Up shortly will be a video from our chief legal counsel that explores this opinion in more depth. That was 4 hours ago. Let's hop over and see if they have released the video yet. Yes, here we go. Chief legal counsel for National Association for Gun Rights, Barry Arrington, gives a breakdown on the Rahimi decision. Let's listen to some of his breakdown and see what they're saying. Thanks for being here, guys. C26 of you guys on Rumble. I salute you. Mad as fuck today. Thanks for being here.
Hello, my name is Barry Arrington. I am the Chief Legal Counsel for the National Association for Gun Rights, and we have major breaking news. We have been waiting for the Supreme Court's decision in the Rahimi case since oral argument last November, and there's been a lot of speculation about what the Supreme Court was going to do in this case. Were they going to use this as a vehicle to clarify Bruin? Were they going to narrow Bruin? Were they going to expand Bruin? What was the court going to do with this case?
Hey, Donna. And yeah, that's a really good question. What are we going to have to do? Go back to muskets? Well, according to the 1892 law, any gun designed before 1892 is not considered a, quote, firearm. So if you have your firearms restricted by some red flag bullshit, you may still be able to have black powder cap and ball revolvers, muskets, and nowadays muskets are, front loader, muzzle loader guns are really nice and accurate. So that may be a workaround to this, where you can get like for instance, potentially, not giving legal advice, like an 1860 Navy pistol manufactured by Pieta from Italy that you don't even need a pistol permit or anything to purchase. I don't think they can take that away from you, even with this type of stuff. So I could be wrong, but look into it. Keep that in mind. There's all kinds of guns that are not considered firearms that could potentially still be possessed. So it might be a good time to look into black powder weaponry that can circumvent this type of corrupt legislation and red flag bullshit. Let's continue.
We have the answer to that question today. The bottom line is Rahimi is a little bit of a nothing burger. The court really didn't do much. So let me go into it and give you the background of what the Rahimi case is all about, what the court did, and what it means for the Second Amendment. So what is the Rahimi case all about? There is a federal statute, and it's 922G8 of Title 18, which basically makes it a crime to carry a weapon while you're subject to a domestic violence restraining order.
Let's hop over to the ATF, the assholes and turd fuckers over here, and let's look at this that I just found. Can a person prohibited by law from possessing a firearm own a black powder firearm? Because black powder firearms are considered antique firearms, the possession of a black powder firearm by a person subject to federal firearms disabilities is not prohibited by the GCA. However, a person subject to federal firearms disabilities may not receive and or possess black powder firearms that can be readily converted to fire fixed ammunition by replacing the barrel, bolt, breech block, or any combination thereof, which are classified as, quote, firearms. Additionally, any state law may prohibit the possession of black powder firearm by persons who are not federally prohibited from possessing them. Please contact your state's attorney general's office for information regarding black powder firearms. So this is a potential workaround. Look into the 1892 law. I just typed in over here on Brave browser AI search 1892 black powder. 1892 law, black powder. Black powder firearms are considered antique firearms, exempt from federal firearms disabilities. However, there are some restrictions and considerations to be aware of. So look into it. It's an option to explore. Any asshole can just make up stuff about people and get their guns taken away at this point, it seems. So let's continue over here with this guy.
Now, this Rahimi character, he's a bad actor, and he had shot at or in the direction of his girlfriend. She got a restraining order against him, and so he was subject to one of these domestic violence restraining orders. But while he was subject to that, he kept on carrying his weapons, and he actually abused his Second Amendment rights and shot up a house and shot up a neighborhood. One of the crimes, many crimes with which he was charged as a result of that, was carrying a weapon in violation of this statute. He was convicted. Then it went all the way up to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, which is the circuit court that has jurisdiction over Texas, where Mr. Rahimi lived. The Fifth Circuit held that there's no sufficiently similar founding era analog to a disarmament under a domestic violence restraining order, and struck the statute down 100%, completely vacated it. And the government obviously appealed that decision to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court granted certiorari. Argument was in November. The decision came out today. What did the court hold? The court reversed the Fifth Circuit. The court said the Fifth Circuit got it wrong. How did the Fifth Circuit get it wrong? Well, It said that there are some laws from the founding era that are sufficiently analogous to this restraining order law to allow this to stand under the Second Amendment. And so what are those analogies? Well, there were two that the court relied upon. One was the surety laws from the founding era, and one was the going armed laws from the founding era. Now, what are those? The surety law was if someone was held to be a credible threat of violence to someone, they had to post a bond, for example. And if they went forward and actually hurt that person, they would forfeit that bond. It was a way of giving them an incentive not to go forward and hurt people. The other one was the going armed. Now, going armed, that sounds like, well, can they just otherwise prohibit going armed? Isn't that against Bruin? So that is not what it means. Going armed is kind of a term of art. It doesn't mean going armed literally. It means going armed with dangerous and unusual weapons in such a way that it terrorizes the community. There was a common law offense called affray, and going armed is a subset of this affray offense. And so if you run around with dangerous and unusual weapons and you terrorize people, well, that was against the law at the founding era. And the court found that these affray laws, these going armed laws, were sufficiently analogous. And so what was the overall principle that the court landed upon in terms of application of the Second Amendment? Well, the court...
That's right, Alicia. We no longer recognize your authority. You fucking tyrants are above and beyond the power granted to you by us through the Constitution. You're out of line. We no longer accept your claim to authority.
The court said that under these analogies, if there is a finding by a court that a particular person is a credible threat to the physical safety of another person under this statute, that is sufficient to disarm that person, and it does not violate the Second Amendment. That's all the court held. It did not retreat from Bruin. It did not break any new ground. It basically applied Bruin, and basically the only thing that it disagreed with the Fifth Circuit was whether these laws were sufficiently analogous.
Mama Mac talking about flamethrowers. Interesting story when Chesty Puller, the most highly decorated Marine of all time, was being given a flamethrower that was going to be issued to his troops. He had one question. Where do you attach the bayonet? So you burn somebody and then stab them with it. Chesty Puller, R.I.P. Good night, Chesty Puller, wherever you are.
So, what does this mean for the Second Amendment going forward? So, frankly, it doesn't really put us in much of a different position than we were yesterday. There's a lot of litigation around the country concerning the parameters of Bruin and the text stage of Bruin and the history and tradition stage of Bruin and how those are applied. With respect to the first issue, the text issue, Rahimi was utterly silent. It said, yeah, Bruin has two steps, text and history. Text, no one disputes that he's been disarmed, and that would be implicated by the plain text of the Second Amendment, disarming someone. So the court dealt with the text issue in just a couple of sentences.
Don't you dare apologize, Alicia.
And with respect to the history and tradition issue, it said, yeah, the next step is, yes, it's covered by the plain text. The government has to produce analogies from the founding era to justify its regulation. And the government has, in fact, produced those analogies in these surety laws and going armed laws. And therefore, this particular statute does not violate on its face the Second Amendment. Now, that's another area where Rahimi is extremely narrow. The Rahimi case was what's called a facial challenge. There are two ways you can challenge a statute under the Constitution. You can say that it is facially invalid, which means that it is not, there's no way that this particular statute can ever be applied constitutionally, or the vast sweep of the cases that it covers cannot be applied constitutionally. That is a very tough standard to meet. It is a difficult standard to say this statute can never be applied constitutionally, and the courts have generally disfavored facial challenges.
I would say the whole NFA is facially unconstitutional. But we can't stay forever on this topic, so link will be in the description if you guys want to watch the rest of this video. Let's continue on with some more Supreme Court stuff. We're going to hop over to Jones first, who posted this saying the Supreme Court is under total CIA/NSA surveillance by the Biden administration. They must start by having a full security sweep of all electronic devices. We can't trust any decisions coming out of here because they're overrun with spies and probably being threatened like everybody else. Remember a couple of years ago during the Epstein case, how one of the judge that was involved in that had like a UPS driver show up at her front door and pop her husband and her son? You think that the Supreme Court justices aren't being threatened? I have questions about that. He's posting here, Gateway Pundit, another Supreme Court leak. Biden announced executive order to legalize immigrant spouses 3 days before SCOTUS issues ruling on spouses' visa. Let's hop over to the article here. Is there another Supreme Court leaker? The High Court released 5 opinions on Friday in cases from the current term. Texas v. New Mexico. Court upholds the U.S.'s objections to a consent decree that would resolve the dispute over each state's allocation of the waters of the Rio Grande. Court rules 6-3 in the Department of State v. Munoz that a citizen does not have a fundamental liberty interest in her non-citizen spouse being admitted into the country. In Erlinger v. United States, the court rules that under the Armed Career Criminal Act, which imposes mandatory prison terms, a judge should use a preponderance of the evidence standard to decide whether the offenses were committed on separate occasions, or instead a jury must make those decisions unanimously and beyond a reasonable doubt. In Smith v. Arizona, the court rules for the state that the Confrontation Clause does not bar an expert to present an absent analyst's true statements in support of the expert's opinions. The Supreme Court rejects the challenge to the constitutionality of a federal law that bans possession of a gun by someone who has been the subject of a domestic violent restraining order in U.S. v. Rahimi. So the U.S. Court Friday ruled 6-3 decision in the Department of State v. Munoz that the U.S. is not required to admit immigrant spouses of an American citizens in a case involving an MS-13 gang member. In DOS v. Munoz, the court ruled that, quote, a citizen does not have a fundamental liberty interest in her non-citizen spouse being admitted to the country. The ruling involves American citizen Sandra Munoz, who sued the State Department for the right to bring her MS-13 husband to the U.S. to live with her in the U.S. This sounds like a good decision, right? Respondent Sandra Munoz is an American citizen. In 2010, she married Luis Asensio Cordero, a citizen of El Salvador. The couple eventually sought to obtain an immigrant visa for Asensio Cordero so that they could live together in the U.S. Munoz filed a petition with U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services to have Asensio Cordero classified as an immediate relative. USCIS granted Munoz's petition, and Asensio Cordero traveled to the consulate in San Salvador to apply for a visa. After conducting several interviews with Asensio Cordero, consular officer denied his application, citing Section 1182A3A2, a provision that renders inadmissible a non-citizen whom the officer, quote, knows or has reasonable ground to believe seeks to enter the United States to engage solely, principally, or incidentally in, quote, end quote, in certain specified offenses or, quote, any other unlawful activity, unquote. Asensio Cordero guessed he was denied a visa based on a finding that he was a member of MS-13, a transnational criminal gang who sacrifices babies to Moloch, or to the beast, quote unquote, as we covered recently. Sorry for sniffing in the microphone. Allergies today. So he disavowed any gang membership, and he and Munoz pressed the consulate to reconsider the officer's finding. When the consulate refused, they appealed to the Department of State, which agreed that the consulate's determination. So they took it to the Supreme Court. But curiously, just 3 days ago, Joe Biden issued a bizarrely specific executive order related to the immigrant spouses of American citizens. The Biden administration on Tuesday announced an executive action allowing certain undocumented spouses and children of U.S. citizens to apply for lawful permanent residency without leaving the country. A sweeping election year move that could offer deportation protections to hundreds of thousands of people, buying more voters. The action will provide legal status and protections for about 500,000 Americans, families, and roughly 50,000 non-citizen children of immigrants under the age of 21 whose parent is married to a U.S. citizen, a senior administration official said. It amounts to one of the federal government's biggest relief programs for undocumented immigrants since the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, DACA, program was announced by then-President Barack Obama in 2012, the outlet reported. The timing is suspicious. Did someone leak the Supreme Court's decision to the Biden White House? Quote, somebody at the White House was clearly tipped off about the unannounced Supreme Court decision, which explains why the White House rushed out such a shoddily written and argued new executive order to open the border even more. The Biden regime knew how the Supreme Court was going to rule, and it sought to preempt the court with its absurd executive order, the Federalist's Sean Davis writes. Here is his tweet over here, his post, I should say, since it's technically not Twitter anymore. So sketchy. Is there remember when Roe v. Wade was overturned, there was a big leak that exposed that ruling before it actually happened. Since we're mentioning Roe v. Wade and Supreme Court leaks, let's skip to a topic that I had a little bit further down on the list, but that is Roe v. Wade related. Roe v. Wade, a manufactured lie. Look at this. We got a deathbed confession from May 2020 of Jane Roe, who confesses that she was paid to say and play the part. This is from Not a Number at My Hidden Value on X. Make sure to follow them. Really good account with really good information. Let's full screen and check out this deathbed confession that she was paid off to play the part in the Roe v. Wade lawsuit or case. Check this out.
Took their money and they put me out in front of the cameras and told me what to say. And I took their money and they put me out in front of the cameras and told me what to say. And that's what I'd say.
Wow.
I took their money and they put me out in front of the cameras and told me what to say. That's what I'd say.
Wow.
We've gathered here today to pay homage to the children that are being aborted in this abortuary. We're doing this because abortion is wrong. And I, as the former Jane Roe of Roe versus Wade, do regret signing the affidavit for the pro-abortion camps. That was probably about it.
It was all an act.
Yeah. I did it well, too. I am a good actress. Of course, I'm not acting now. I did it well, too.
That really hurts because
all the dead babies resulting from this man.
Jakes. It's big stakes. It's just really big stakes.
I had never heard her say anything like this. Never. But I know what we were doing. And there were times I was sure she knew. And I wondered, is she playing us? What I didn't have the guts to say was, because I know damn well we're playing her. What we did with Norma was highly unethical. The jig is up.
basically like everything the Fed does, the federal government does.
Now to that ABC News exclusive. Abortion rights rallies held
Yeah, it's time,
nationwide
Ed.
over the weekend as
Put up or shut up, Orange Man. We need you to come out with everything you fucking have. They're shutting off the water in Idaho. We are under attack. Everything you have needs to come out right now, Trump.
Roe versus Wade faces perhaps its biggest challenge in the Supreme Court session beginning this morning. And we're going to hear from the woman known as Baby Roe, speaking to our Lindsay Davis. Good morning, Lindsay.
Good morning to you, Robin. Good to see you all. This is a woman who has carried just an incredible burden for decades. Something that Shelley Thornton says she has tried to ignore, but it just won't go away. She has felt that people would blame her for the actions of Jane Roe, her biological mother, whose lawsuit gave women the right to have an abortion.
A lot of people didn't know that I existed.
For decades, she's
question,
been known
Donna.
simply as Baby Roe. Now, at 51 years old, Shelley Thornton is breaking her silence, talking exclusively to ABC News in her first broadcast interview.
Your mere conception brought about arguably the most controversial Supreme Court ruling in history. What's the impact on you now?
It doesn't revolve around me. I wasn't the one who created this law. I'm not the one who created this movement.
Her biological mother was Norma McCorvey, a.k.a. Jane Roe, a cleaning woman from Katy, Texas. Her desire to terminate that pregnancy caused Norma to file a lawsuit against the state of Texas. She never did have that abortion, and by the time the Supreme Court ruled in her favor in 1973, the baby had already been adopted and was 2.5 years old.
My whole thinking is that, oh God, everybody's going to hate me because everyone's going to blame me for abortion being legal.
What kind of weight was that burden for you to carry that for so many years?
I feel that it was always hard for me to form relationships with people because I felt like I was always holding something back. I still carry that. And I probably always will.
There have been several challenges to the ruling, but none as serious as recent legislation passed in Texas, effectively banning most abortions. This morning, a new Supreme Court term is set to begin, and the constitutional right of a woman getting an abortion will largely rest in the hands of a conservative majority on the bench.
And tonight,
Boom. So yeah, she normal-eyed, babies died, and kind of sucks. Kind of sucks, man. So we'll move on to the next topic. Just thought that was worth touching on again to remind people that everything's bullshit. The federal government lies and manipulates everybody. They literally paid her to lie so that they could murder babies. And now our replacement rate is beneath the 2.1 required to maintain civilization. So great job, federal government. There's a great negative externality from your intervention in reproductive markets, so to speak. Let's move on to our next topic, which is a little bit better news. And this is something that Tim Pool predicted a few weeks ago. We played the clip on air as he was wargaming the potential ways that a civil war may develop. He said that other states may start suing New York for trying to take presidential candidates off the ballot that are everybody's candidate. It's everybody's heir, sir, like Dave Chappelle. That's everybody's candidate. New York. Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey to launch legal battle against New York over unconstitutional lawfare against President Trump. The states are beginning to divide. Jim Hoft wrote this article. We're going to be heavy on Gateway Pundit today as they're under legal fire with Chapter 11, and they're trying to shut down Gateway Pundit. So we're going to pump them hard while they're under attack. Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey has announced his intention to launch a legal battle against the state of New York, accusing it of an unconstitutional attack on the democratic process through its legal actions against President Trump. In a bold declaration on X, Bailey wrote, quote, "I will be filing suit against the state of New York for their direct attack on our democratic process through unconstitutional lawfare against President Trump. It's time to restore the rule of law." So we need political asylum for Trump in Florida. If they try to jail him, Florida should offer political asylum to Steve Bannon and others as well. Navarro already is in prison, so we can't really give it to him. But God damn, it's so fucked up. This is insane. We're living through the craziest time to be alive right now. Quote, "We have to fight back against a rogue prosecutor who's trying to take a presidential candidate off the campaign trail. It sabotages Missourians' right to a free and fair election," he added. This is exactly what Tim Pool was predicting. Major stuff. Stay tuned. This announcement comes in response to a series of investigations and legal actions taken against Trump by key figures in New York's legal system, which Trump has characterized as a, quote, witch hunt. These include the Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, New York Attorney General Letitia James, and Judges Arthur Ignorant and Juan Marshall. So we pretty much get the gist. They're going to be suing each other. Screw New York. Everybody should team up against New York and sue the hell out of them. Let's jump to our next topic. We got so much stuff today. We got to keep it moving. We wasted enough time. Should have only played like the first minute of that Roe v. Wade story, but I got distracted watching the video. So sorry about that. Let's see. What do we got next? Oh, yeah. Mama Mac was also posting about this as well. Just saying that it's good news that we have Andrew Bailey, B. Hizzy reporting that they're filing suit against New York. He says this is what every Republican state needs to be doing. We don't need your sympathy tweets. We need your actions. That's right. We need your actions. And we have good news coming from Jake Lang, one of the prominent J6 political prisoners at Jake Lang J6. He says the Supreme Court has just granted his January 6 case today. Breaking news. All of the deep state prosecutors that ruined hundreds of J6ers' lives are on full meltdown mode. The 512 obstruction of Congress charge, 20-year max felony that 327 J6ers and Donald Trump have been politically charged with will be argued by him, Jake Lang, and his legal team in SCOTUS very soon. Stay tuned and see what God is going to do. A day of double rejoicing as well. Patrick Byrne, Overstock.com CEO, has just pledged $500,000 to the J6 Legal Fund. If we can get his Give, Send, Go to $500,000 by Saturday night, only $230,000 to go. J6legal.org. J6legal.org. Let's boost it up to the looks like they've done it. They've raised $500,000. Boom! That's fucking awesome. So Patrick Byrne, who's been balls deep with the election theft stuff since 2020, will be donating $500,000 to match and make this Give, Send, Go reach its $1 million goal. Congratulations to J6 Legal Fund. And thank you to Patrick Byrne for being one of the most steadfast, outspoken, unshakable patriots that we have. Patrick Byrne is somebody, B-Y-R-N-E, is somebody that I think does really good work. He was there with in the White House when Donald Trump verbally named Sidney Powell as a special counsel, interestingly, and has exposed a lot of crazy stuff with Dominion and all these other fuckers going on over there. So congratulations to Jake Lang. We need this case heard immediately. Yeah, good stuff. So we do have some good stuff happening amidst all the horror. What time are we at now? Are we at over an hour? Let's kill the YouTube feed metaphorically in Minecraft and take this broadcast Rumble and exclusive. Boom. Just posted the link over in YouTube. So make sure to copy paste it to a new tab or whatever you got to do. Come join us on Rumble. Any poo-tubers that are out there watching, it's probably just Mama Mac and Crazy B. So, yep. Sorry if we're ditching you, but screw YouTube. So come and join us where we can talk freely. And otherwise, we will catch you on the flip side on Monday. Until then, let's get ready to rumble.